Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Christy Thompson, and I am the Chief Revenue Officer here at BIS Technology Group. And just a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can pop them into the chat. The chat is over on your right side. There's a little chat bubble. You can pop them in there. We'll try to stop the presentation. If we can't, the questions will be answered at the very end. And we'll keep everybody muted throughout the presentation. So if you are coming on, please keep yourself muted. And then at the very end, we can open it up. So thank you for coming out today for our Business Builder webinar on how to hire and get hired. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to our host for the day, Phillip Long. He is the CEO of BIS Technology Group, and he is a certified information systems security professional, which is actually backed by the Department of Defense. He is a technologist and entrepreneur. He's worked in the IT industry for over 20 years, has 600 plus clients from Gulfport to Gulf Breeze, and is the current owner of 5 businesses. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Phillip.
Yeah, great, Christian. Thank everyone for joining us today. I think it's a very relative topic. It's one of the, to me, it's one of the times that you really have an opportunity to get some things right. I know in onboarding new clients, it's very important that you onboard them correctly. It really speaks to the longevity of a relationship. If anything in the IT industry has taught me over the past 20 years is that onboarding is very, very, very important. And so I have a guest today who's with me. It's Hank Lahti, and he actually was on a podcast with me. Welcome, Hank. How are you? Sound like he's muted. Christy, can you get him unmuted? Hank, are you there, buddy?
Hey, Hank, we've sent you an unmute request.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Sounds good. So Hank, welcome, buddy. How are you today?
I am fantastic, Phillip. How are you doing today?
Doing well. I'll just tell you a little bit about Hank. He works for the Alabama Career Center in Baldwin County, and he works primary focus with veterans. And he has done a lot of other things, and really the Alabama Career Center has a lot of things to offer, and we're going to highlight that throughout the presentation today. He also has served in the United States Coast Guard. How long did you serve, Hank?
4 years.
I got you. And also at the training center, and he is married, has 4 children. He loves traveling, hiking, and running. So let's jump in. I tell you, I pulled up just a couple stats just to kind of look at things in the marketplace as to what's going on with hiring, and have a couple stats here. Currently, as of these numbers came in for the month of May, is what I'm reporting. Unemployment is 13.3%. And, prior to that, like before the COVID thing, we were at like 3.5%. Those are national averages. And it looks like Alabama is about 12.9 as of April. And so, we're trending a little better than national average. Mississippi is a couple points higher than that at about 14, and Florida is about the same at around 12.9%. So with the COVID thing, I just see a lot of opportunities. Why we wanted to have this, is because of, there's a lot of unemployment. We know why, and there'll be some people that'll be, kind of getting shuffled around probably in the workforce, and we wanted to give some great tips on if you're a person, that has lost their job, as well as if you're going to hire somebody, maybe what we want to look for and some programs that are offered out there. So, all right, so let's jump on in here. Hank, help me out. Let's go. We're going to talk a little bit about some resources that you feel are relative to finding a job.
Yes, Philip, and yes, you're right. Onboarding right now is what we're going to go over, and that's the key, is to find good talent. And with the COVID situation that's going on now, yes, unemployment has increased, but what I'm finding that there are still, especially in the Baldwin County area, there are a lot of jobs out there. So, as a job seeker now, we need to kind of explain what some of the resources and where to look for jobs. Okay, and then on the job, on the employer side, of course, where do employers go to find good talent? Now, I have put a list together, of the top 10 search engines for 2020, and I put the source down there as Career Sidekick, but they've listed Indeed as the #1 source for finding jobs online and for jobs posting. And Indeed, it says, features millions of job listings from thousands of different websites, and they do. Followed by Career Builder, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Simply Hired, Linked Up, Snag a Job, Facebook, of course, okay, came in at #8, ZipRecruiter, and Robert Half at #10. I don't know if all of you are familiar with each one of those, but I visit them frequently as a job coach, as a career representative, trying to help people find jobs. I go and visit these sites to see what they have on for our particular area. Okay. One thing I do have to say is when you use these types of online job searches, you do have to be careful to check the date of the job. Some of these online job searches will keep a job up there, and they're not notified of when the job is actually filled or taken down. So as a job seeker, when you see a job that you may be interested in, look at the date of it, okay? And if it's an old posting, you may want to go on that company's website directly and see if it's still posted. Okay, or you may even want to call the company and say, hey, I saw this, it looks like an old posting, is this job still available?
Yeah, and for our audience, these are things that we need to be aware of whenever we're doing job postings, is that we're keeping it real. We're updating the event, when you hired somebody, take it down, and all of those kind of things, because it's really it's important that we're providing good data, just to be good to people in the world. But tell me about the other resources for finding jobs, because I noticed on the other slide you talked about that don't just look there.
Absolutely. Nowadays, online, with the use of computers, it seems like we're doing everything online. It's a very easy way to get information, and certainly that's a great way to look at for jobs. But only 20% of the jobs are found online. Okay, I think I put that in there somewhere. Yeah, 20% of your overall job search should be targeted for online. Now, the other 80%, you're going to have to find other ways of finding jobs. Networking is always the best way. Friends and family, and networking within the community, because you make that personal connection that way. People know, hey, so-and-so is looking for a job. Let's see if we can help them. So networking events, friend and family, job fairs, okay? Although we can't do job fairs in person at this point in time, what we're seeing is virtual job fairs. I know one of our partners, SADC, has been putting on virtual job fairs in the South Baldwin area, and it's been very successful. For those of you that don't know how a virtual job fair works, is they provide a list of companies. You register for the job fair and let them know what company you'd be interested in interviewing with. And the day of the event, what you'll have is you'll be brought in, everybody will be brought into a big waiting room, Okay, they'll be told the rules of how the event's going to work, and then each company has their own room that you will be dispersed to. Okay, and then they will move you from the general waiting area to that room to be interviewed with that employer. It's a great way, it's a modern way of interviewing right now. Basically what that is, it's the initial interview just to introduce yourself. Uh, for the employer, they get a chance to see you, okay, and what you have to offer. For the job seeker, you present yourself, and if you have those skills that they need, they're going to call you to a second interview after that. Okay.
Cool. Yep.
Staffing agencies, they're great. You know, I mean, I work with staffing agencies on a regular basis too. As people come into our office, that is one of my go-tos if I have looking for a specific type of job or job skill set. I have a number of contacts with staffing agencies that I'll reach out to you and say, hey, do you have anything available for this individual? And they do the same. They reach out to us. They come into our career centers to find good talent too.
Yep.
Directly with employer, okay. A little bit further in the presentation, I'm going to give you some websites, but always look, especially if you're looking for a particular type of job. Okay, if you're looking, for instance, if you're looking to work with a county government municipality job, go on each one of their websites on a weekly basis and see what jobs they have available. They all post online, okay? Along with all your employers, especially larger employers within our Region 7 area. Job boards, okay? Chambers, local news networks, they all have job boards on them, okay? Great way to reach out and look to see maybe some of those jobs that aren't on the websites that we previously looked at. There may be smaller employers that just want to advertise locally, so they're just going to go to their chamber, the local news networks. I know in South Baldwin County, Gateway Initiative, okay, they've been advertising. Workforce development organizations is another one. Fortunately, here in South Alabama, we have a good team and network of workforce development organizations. Just to name a few, we have SWAP-T, which we work with closely with the Southwest Alabama Partnership for Training and Employment. Well, I go through these acronyms, and some of them are quite long, so I'm going to tell you what each one is. So SWAP-T, they actually do the on-the-job training and the funding for individual training if you want to enter a job through that training portal through the Career Center. Okay, SADC, South Alabama Workforce Development Council. Okay, they work with industry clusters in our area. AIDT, Alabama Industrial Development and Training. They have a great website, and they also, if you go on I went on their website this morning, they'll have a job posting. Okay, mainly maritime positions, but if you're in that industry, that's a great resource for job seekers to go to. Okay, SARP-C, South Alabama Regional Planning Commission. It's another great website. They're out of Mobile. ATN, Alabama Technology Network. All these are workforce development organizations that not only help the job seeker, some of them post jobs on their job board, but also that employers can go to for assistance in finding good talent and finding ways to train, okay, and the funding to train that good talent that they bring aboard.
Gotcha. And we're going to get you guys connected, with Hank, so that he can help you get your jobs posted in these places. So that, again, what I always learned a long time ago was that you really wanted to get yourself into a position where you had at least 3 candidates, of which any one would fit the role. And you're ultimately, then you bring in, a couple members on your team. Y'all all grade out so that, you're hopefully at a starting point where anyone would be successful, and then you're picking the very best one out of those 3. And really, a lot of times, you got to get the count up, and these services can definitely help you. The other thing you guys have made, and I know we talked about it prior, Hank, is that the alabamaworks.alabama.gov website.
Yes. Just going kind of a little bit back, give you a history on American Job Centers, which is called the AJC. They're career one-stops, and they're funded by the Department of Labor, and all 50 states have an AJC, okay? There are 2,400 Alabama Job Centers or career one-stops throughout the United States at this point. And Alabama, okay, is now called Alabama Works Career Center, okay? There are 50 career centers within the state of Alabama. There are two just in Baldwin County. There's one in Mobile, and as you go north, they're dispersed throughout the state. So these career one-stops, okay, are funded by the Department of Labor, and that is our sole purpose, to help employers and job seekers and match them together. Okay. Now, we don't have all the answers, okay, but that's why we reach out to our partners. If I find that I have another a partner, whether it be a workforce development, chamber of commerce, somebody else in the county that can better serve that person, I will make that connection. That's what we're here for.
Gotcha. I got the website. I pulled it up here just to kind of look at it. It looks, the user experience looks nice as far as, you have find a job, jobs market trends, you got your industry profiles, a lot of information there that people can go. And if our listeners wanted to put their job out here, they would just need to get with you, and you'd fix them up, right?
Absolutely. Okay. So the Career Center, as far as employer services, there's many different services, and I won't take too long on this particular subject. But yes, you can contact us. You can. The closest one in the South Baldwin is in Foley. Then we have one in North Baldwin in Bay Minette, and our job is to help you find good talent or find the funds for training that talent. There's a lot of things that, as far as the employer, that some employers not aware of. We have, of course, the on-the-job training program that you're aware of, but we have, and that brings in new talent. Okay, we fund or provide funding to train new talent coming in. Okay, another alternative is incumbent worker, and some businesses aren't worked. Every business in the state of Alabama can apply for what they call incumbent worker training. That's training your current workforce. And to be eligible for that, for instance, if you buy a new piece of equipment, okay, to better your business, okay, you can purchase that piece of equipment. We will reimburse the training costs for that piece of equipment, and I'm not sure the exact amount. Is between $30,000 and $35,000 lifetime on that now. So, as an example, we have several production facilities in Baldwin County that have purchased production equipment. So their current workforce has to be trained on how to use that equipment. After they purchase the equipment, we go. Actually, the application process is very simple. It's sent up to complete it, sent up to Montgomery. They approve it, and once it's approved, then you get the funds to purchase the training for that equipment.
Wow.
You do have to prove, okay, that you're going to increase productivity or you're going to hire more individuals, which will help the community. Okay.
Sure.
So we just don't hand the money over. You do have to prove that it's going to be, this is what is going to be useful out of it. This is what it's going to do for the community. This is what it's going to do for increasing our hiring needs or production.
Yep.
Okay.
That's really really interesting. That's some good information for people, because honestly, a lot of times where I see people fall short when they buy a new piece of, from my standpoint, of course, technology, but they often don't spend enough money on training, and that's why you got half implemented software all over the world. This thing, the software will do a million things, but they never spent the time to train the people. Therefore, they're looking at a lower
their current employees, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they haven't trained, they didn't do enough in that area. Therefore, that product will always underserve them.
Absolutely, yeah. So that it covers training for new individuals coming on board. That covers training for your current employees. We have information on labor. We have what we call labor market information because there's on some of your larger companies throughout the county, they need to know comparisons on wage basis. We have a great labor market information website that they can use. We can get you information on that. Apprenticeship programs that's dealt with under the Department of Commerce. They have a wonderful program up there in Montgomery, and they're broken down into regions just like the Career Center is. So if you would like to learn more about the apprenticeship programs, you're welcome to contact me, and I would put you in touch with the local representative that's out of Mobile, and she can tell you how the apprenticeship program works, get you enrolled, and take those tax credits that you deserve. Work opportunity tax credits. There are certain individuals that you could hire that you can get tax credits for. My best example, I guess, at this point would be if you hired a veteran. If you hire a veteran, you're going to get a tax credit. If you hire a disabled veteran, that tax credit increases. The maximum tax credit for hiring a disabled veteran at this point in time is $9,600. Okay, so again, if you need information on that, you would contact myself, and I could get you in the right direction to apply for those tax credits. And lastly is the federal bonding program. Every once in a while, I have an employer come up to me and say, hey, we would love to hire this individual, but he has a record. Okay, we can't send him out to the work site. In the situation I'm thinking of was the state docks, unless he's bonded. How do we do that? Okay, so if you ever run into a situation where you want to hire somebody, but you do have to have that bonding program to back it up, let me know. I can get you in the right direction.
Cool. And what I really want to say to that is that, very much, what I find the most successful people I work with are people, and it's what I have learned through my career, is that, it's impossible for you to know everything, and you really need to have coaches. And ultimately, you're a coach to help people get jobs, but mostly for the folks on this call, you're a coach to help us understand what avenues are out there so that we can, when we're hiring somebody new, to offset that cost of that new employee. Everybody knows that's on this call, they know the pain that it goes into the money it costs to hire a new employee.
Very expensive, yes.
Yeah, and there are ways, and we use you guys. We have used you guys, and I'm actually, just from what we've talked about so far, I really want to sit down and just talk to you about my vision for what I want to do, because there's probably a lot of ways and a lot of resources that you could help me do out that. So hopefully a lot of people will wear you out, and then of course the side, you can earn your money, earn our tax money at work,
And Philip, I'm not the expert on a lot of this, and that's why I defer this to the proper agency that does it. Okay, I'm the go-to. Hey, where can I get this done? I can send you in the right direction. And one of the other, if you ever hire somebody that needs an accommodation, our Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services is a great department to work for, because there's a lot of people out there that need some special equipment, maybe to make their job easier, okay, or bring them on board. That can be funded, through the state. So that's another program out there that makes it easier for their employers to bring good talent aboard.
Yep, that's right. Another thing is, of course, and we won't belabor this because not many people on the call are going to be there, but you guys also offer a lot as it relates to job seekers, helping people get jobs. And with the current marketplace, and I don't know, talk to me about, I don't know, this is something we didn't discuss prior, but, I know that the government was, that $600 is, you think that's going to hold unemployment high for a minute because people are actually making more money on unemployment than they are working? Think that's going to be a problem to find employees for a little while?
Well, I am not an unemployment expert, and I know that is coming to an end. I think, you know, it was set up for a purpose, and I think it served that purpose. And it's going to end in July, from what I understand. So, what I'm looking at now is if we have job seekers out there that are interested in finding a job, don't wait until it ends. Come on into, get out
Yeah.
there and start the search now. Okay, the jobs are out there. We don't. There might be a rush by the time it ends. So we need you now. I had a production facility yesterday that come in and need 25 people here in this small town. So there's jobs out there.
Yeah, that's good to know. Also, just got up, on the screen, just talking about the just the overall website. I know that you and y'all are proud of this website. This is a very functional, and you really want to drive people to that website, and which is another really good thing showing the number of employer services, and just the whole, really the website has a great user experience, look and feel to it.
I tell you what, this Alabama Works website is wonderful. They just launched it on April 27th. If we have any employers out there that need help in going through it and doing a dry run and seeing how it works, I would be happy to help you. The same with the job seekers. If you want to see how it works and get more technical into it, come into our career center. We'll have a representative sit down with you and show you how to use it.
Yep. And then also that other resource. What is WorkLooker?
WorkLooker is I just threw that in there because, like I say, I look for all types of programs that will help me help a client. Okay, and WorkLooker has helped me because it brings everything in one spot. Okay, we have Alabama Works, which is wonderful. That's our program through the Career Center. WorkLooker is an independent website at www.worklooker.com, and if you scroll down through, it will list. You can pick Alabama, you can pick Baldwin County. It'll list the major employers for Baldwin County. It will list each municipality for Baldwin County. It will list each college for Baldwin County, all in one spot. So you can go directly to their website without having to back out of it and type in the company name that you need to go to again. It's all located in one spot.
Cool. And then, of course, in your specialty, really, what your main thing is trying to get veterans hired, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's my specialty.
And tell us about the Medallion program.
Okay, the Medallion program is it's called the Hire Vets Medallion Program. It is the only federal level award to recognize employers of all sizes for their efforts to recruit veterans. Okay, and you have to apply for it. So this is if you go on hirevets.gov, actually the enrollment period has just ended for 2021. They will open it back up again in January of 2021 for the next year. Okay, you can still go on their website because it's a great way that gives you the employer tools to recruit and train and retain veterans. Okay. However, if you want to apply and get their medallion, okay, that shows that you're in support of hiring veterans and supporting the program. And there's a small cost to it. It's not a great cost. I think for a small business it's like $90. Okay. And once you're approved, you got to go through an approval process showing that you have hired veterans in the past, what's your persistency rate, and what percentage of veterans you have on board, and that you are in support of the veterans currently. Once you're approved, they will give you electronic medallion that you can put on your website, that you can use on letterhead, saying you're in support of that program. So as we go throughout the year, I tell employers about it. I do speeches through the chamber, let them know about it, and then if you show any interest, I get back in touch with you in January and enroll you in the program.
Cool. All right, now let's jump in. We'll kind of talked about the resume, and we're going to kind of more, I think, try to help employers look for good employees. But I think also it's funny because my daughter is she'll soon be a sophomore, and she's going to college, and she was looking for a summer job. And my daughter is about her career, and she always has been. She dual enrolled. She had to quit taking dual enrollment classes. She got a full ride. She picked Troy University to go to their business program. So I'll say
great
all
university.
That. Yeah, I'm really proud of her, and I'm really proud of what she's doing. And so I have actually kind of been coaching her on what to look for. And one of the things that I think what really excites me whenever I meet with somebody is they have thought about the position that I'm hiring. This is what I try to train my staff to do. I want to think about what are the needs of the client, and then really identify that well, and then even go down to the to that secondary level of what are the needs of the clients that they serve. And I say that to relate it back to a resume and an interview is you really want to have that, in my way of thinking, is that you want to have what problems do you solve, and you need to first identify what problems are inherent to the particular job that you're applying for, and then you need to write your resume in such a way that discusses how you recognize that, and it basically how you're solving problems for them, because value, in my view, is directly proportionate to how much you make is how big a problem you can solve. So that's kind of my kickoff for that, and I'm going to turn it over to you with talking about just the types of resumes that you're seeing, and which ones you think are working better, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, yes. The resume is I believe the key to everything, and I highlighted the 6 most common types of resumes there. It's not one size fits all. It depends on what type of job you're applying for. It depends on the individual's work history. It depends on the individual's skills. As a job seeker, okay, if they come in, we sit down with them and we learn about them. Okay, we want to know what they're interested in, what they've done in the past, what their job skill set is, and depending on what their answers are, we design the resume for them. So for one individual, it may be a chronological resume, okay, but for others, it may be a skill-based resume, especially if maybe you have a gap in employment. Maybe you have an individual that came in and spent a couple of years taking care of their elderly parents. Now they want to get back in the workforce. Okay, they don't want to show that gap, or you may want to go to more of a skill base. Here's what I can do, okay, rather than listing every single job. Or some of the employers that are listening, there's job hoppers out there. If you ask for a 5-year history, you might end up with 20 different jobs. Rather than listing those chronologically, we would use a skill-based resume, keep the focus on the skills rather than the job. Okay, so based on what the individual's history is, we based their resume, and based on what the job is, we design the resume. So the chronological, of course, is a listing by date of your jobs. Skill-based is a listing of your skills. That's what it's going to focus on. And then we have a combination of the two. I like the combination because you can put the skills on top You can put the jobs in the bottom. Now, last time we spoke, Phil, you said, I asked you how long you looked at a resume. Now you're in a more technical position, and I think you told me it was longer. Is 30
Yeah.
seconds to a minute. Okay.
Yeah, a minute to 2 minutes is usually.
Yeah.
I even checked myself because I'm looking for some technical talent, and yeah, it takes me. I'll know maybe within a minute. I would say 60 seconds, but yeah, I know what you're saying. I
Well, you
love
saw
the
the facts
facts.
on the right-hand
Yeah,
side
I
there.
love
The
them.
average
Yeah.
is, 6 to 7 seconds, and that's true for a lot of the employers in our area, especially the large employers in our area that have 500 or more employees. They don't have time. They can look at a resume and immediately go in one stack or go in the other stack. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so but more technical businesses such as yourself has to sit down, has to look at the qualifications, what they've done. So I can understand taking a little longer on that. Non-traditional resumes are more for like the graphic artist, that sort of thing, where they do a little bit more fancy. They may have a photo, they may have it in color, they may have it designed a little bit differently. So the non-traditional is a need of its own. Okay. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the federal resume is last. The federal resume, because I work with veterans, we deal with veterans that want to go and get a government type job, whether it's in the federal or state, Corps of Engineers, and their resume is a total different animal than the other ones. They're very long, they're very detailed, and they've got to be very, very specific. We see resumes that could be 10, 11 pages long on a federal resume, and they have to be. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so depending on the type of job that you're going for, and depending on what your skills are, we sit down and design the resume for you. But yeah, I did find it easy. Some of the tips on resumes: 76% of resumes were discarded for unprofessional email addresses. We see that all the time. Look at your email address and then put yourself in the employer's shoes. Would you use that email address in that case? We don't see it on the professional side as much as we do on the production side. So you when you come in and we design your resume, we are going to be looking at that. Another thing is social media. Employers, I don't know if you check it, but when I'm working with someone, I check their social media to see what's on there.
Of
Their
course.
LinkedIn, their Facebook, and it tells a lot about a person. Okay.
That's right. And again, if you want good companies, you got to have good employees. It's really, there's no, that's what I call a mutable law. That's just the way it is. Another thing that I think is neat on this here is that, and I've been there. While the average length of an interview is 40 minutes, 33% of 2,000 surveyed bosses indicate they knew what they were going to do within the first 90 seconds, and that just goes so much on the law of first impressions. Look them in the eye, shake their hand, dress appropriately, all those things that I think in today's world they would say don't matter, but I think they really do a lot matter.
Oh, absolutely. Your interview starts even before you enter that building. Your interview starts when you get that call to make the appointment. Okay.
Yep.
And I think we're going to go into that in our next section as far as the interview process. So.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump in here on the interview and how do we conduct one, and then also how do we engage in one. Let's talk about the 6 common types of interviews.
Okay. The informal or unstructured interview is probably the most common. It's for smaller employers. If we have someone, if I have an employer to call and said, "Hey, I need a cabinet maker. I need somebody in our lumber yard. I need a body. Okay, I need a body that can work. Okay, you don't need a formal interview for that. So if we have a job seeker that can match up, it's usually an informal interview. As you send them down there, they talk with the department, the manager, the supervisor. The interview is very informal. You usually wear what you would be wearing on the job, and they just want to see if you're going to be a good match. Okay? Are you going to report to work on time? Did you show up for that particular meeting on time? Do you have the physical capabilities of doing this job? Do you have the skills that it takes to do that job? And a lot of times you're hired on the spot. Okay, so the informal is actually the very basic first step interview. Next one I have is the phone interview. This is done mainly to quicken the process to get you to the next step, because we have a lot of companies that may go through 100 individuals and they want to they have 100 applications, but they want to narrow it down. So the telephone interview is very valuable in this respect because it speeds up the process. The nice thing is it's very efficient. You don't have to travel. They set up a time, the employer sets up a time, the job seeker accepts. You have that discussion, and you tell them basically what skills you have, and present yourself in a well manner, and hopefully you can make it on to the next step.
Gotcha.
Now, the skill-based interview is a little bit more technical, and I assume, Philip, this is probably more what you do, because in your business, you want to make sure the person you hired has the correct qualifications for what you need them for. Okay? So on a skill-based interview, you bring them in looking for that skill set. Okay? If they have that skill set, and I'm sure you agree that you can tell, and they'll shine in their interview. If they don't, you probably can tell that right away. Okay.
Yeah, we actually, I've kind of my process, and is where I'll do a phone interview because you get a lot of applicants, and I don't want to waste anybody's time, so I kind of do a phone interview because we're a technical company, but it's what I really am big on with my guys is we're don't fight bits and bytes, thanks DNA, because we're working with people and we're solving technology problems. And so it's really it's a tough sell because you got to make people happy and you can't use geek speak. So I like the phone interview to kind of get them through that, and then I can kind of tell what they've done, and then I'll bring them in for an on-site interview, and we'll do some testing on some tests that I've used for a lot of years from a technical standpoint, and I have a baseline that I can use. So that is, and then of course, they could be the greatest person without skill set, or they could be the greatest skill set without the personality. And if I don't have a, what we call kind of a back of the house job open, we do have some folks that are, they're not as people oriented, but they have a role. So that's, again, that's kind of how I do it.
Right. That's good to know. Moving on to the next one, that we have the behavioral-based interview, and that's more for government jobs. Okay, we see that with a lot of our veteran clients that want to go into the federal jobs, is they'll get called for a behavioral-based interview, and they want to know. They'll ask him situational questions. Okay. Give us an example of a situation where you had to deal with a conflict, or how do you influence people in a situation where conflicts have happened. So these are hard interviews, okay? Especially, they take practice. Usually for the job seekers, if there's any out there, you can, if you know the job that you're applying for and that you're going to interview for, usually you can Google it and get a good idea what the behavioral questions that they may ask. It may not be the same ones, but it's a good way to prepare. On the employer side, it's a good way to see how they're going to react on the spot, okay? Because you're asking them questions that they're not expected, they don't expect you to ask, and you're going to see how they're going to respond a little bit under pressure. So the good thing is that the job seeker can practice for this type of interview, and as they practice more and more, they're going to get better at it. Panel interview is next. Okay, these are all very intimidating for the job seeker. I think it takes away some of the bias because you may have 3 or 4 department heads in the same room asking the questions, and they get together afterward. and say, hey, what do you think about this candidate? So you're not interviewed by just one person, but it's going to be several, and that could be a good thing. Okay, so the main advantage of that is it does take away the biases. The disadvantage for the job seeker is when you walk into a panel interview, it's kind of intimidating to have 4 people on the other side of the desk, looking at you.
Yep.
Okay, the video interview is the last thing, and that's becoming more and more common, as we talked about before when we had the job fair, the virtual job fair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're seeing things like Zoom, GoToMeeting, Skype, Hangouts, FaceTime. There's all ways of doing interviews, video interviews at that time. The nice thing is it's very convenient. You don't have to get out of your home to do it. But the other thing is you do see the candidate face to face on the camera. You get to see the reactions when you ask the question, because 70% of communication is body language. In an interview or what we're doing here, I can't see how you're reacting. But on a video interview, I can see that. So it tells me a lot when I can see a person and ask them questions.
Yeah. I tell you one other
Go ahead.
thing that we do. That I think is kind of cool. We do an Enneagram test. We do these are behavior type tests to kind of understand how a person is wired. We do an Enneagram, and we also do a DISC, a dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. And for our audience, the I stands for how socially engaged they are, how much influence they have. And, if you're hiring a salesperson or a front desk person or something like that, and they don't have a high I, you really want to think through that, because if they have to perform those tasks, it causes stress. If you can put me to doing things that I'm not really wired to do. Of course, I'm a guy that, I'm going to do it, but I couldn't do that for a long period of time, because it would wear on me and it would be stressful, and, not my best wouldn't come out. So I think that's something important, is to use some form of behavioral type testing, so that kind of once you understand that, and we could talk offline, I'd be happy to talk to people about that as well. All right.
Absolutely. Those tests are actually very accurate and very, very good for the employers to use.
Yeah, I wouldn't hire anybody without doing it. I mean, that's how much I am. And even we have in our office, one of the things is we have all of that type of information put on a little emoji. We get them to make themselves a bit emoji, and it's hanging outside their door on their cubicle. So when you walk up to talk to them, it kind of is a quick reminder of how they're wired and how you might best communicate with them.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea.
Yep. So talk to me 4 tips for mastering the video interview. You've got a few things on there.
I always, get magazines and periodicals, and this came across my desk this month, matter of fact, and this is for the video interview. This come out of a Career Coach magazine. It was in a veteran magazine. Of course, when you go for an interview, even if it's a video interview, dress for the occasion, like when you're going to work or you're going to go for an in-person interview. When we stayed away from work for 30 days during the initial COVID, and we were working out of our homes, I did not lounge around in my pajamas. I got up dressed for work as I normally would every day to get on the phone. Okay, you feel better psychologically. I think you're going to work better. So in an interview, continue to do that. Dress up, especially it's a video interview. Dress appropriately. Practice. Practice makes perfect. Some people are a little uncomfortable with maybe the modern technology, but you can easily get over that. Research the company. That is one of the tips I'm going to have further. If when you get into an interview, whether it's a video or in person, make sure you know the company you're interviewing for and a little of the history about it. Okay, and test your tech ahead of time, which Philip, I can't say I did that this morning because my video didn't work. So, but yes, you have to. The best laid plans go awry. Yes, you have to test your video equipment and make sure it works ahead of time, because that first impression is a lot for that employer. Okay.
All right, and then talk to us about the being the preparedness for the interview.
Yeah.
Which kind of went over some of that there.
Yeah, we kind of went over a little bit of it, and I think our timing is good here because we're getting into the end. But preparing for the interview, it's like I say, it starts when you schedule the interview. Okay, you may be talking to the receptionist that's scheduling the interview, but you don't know that person. That person may be more involved than you think in the hiring process. So be polite to everyone. Okay, as soon as you schedule that interview, you're going to be looked at from the way you react to the way you talk to people. Research the company. Dress appropriately, like I say. Be prompt for the interview. If you're going to go to an in-person interview and you haven't been there before, go on Google Maps. Maybe drive the route ahead of time so you know where it is, because some of these addresses are deceiving. Google can take you on the other side of town even if you have the correct address in. So make sure you know where it is. Always smile, okay? Firm handshake. If they're, follow social guidelines during nowadays, you might want to do fist bump or elbow bump. Like I say, be nice to everyone. Answer questions honestly. I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, I have people come in that maybe had something in their past, or you just have to be honest about it and say, hey, yeah, that happened in that particular job, but I've moved on and learned from it. You can turn it into a positive, okay? Ask questions.
I'll reiterate that because I have had people that, life's is a long and winding road, and longer and more winding for some people. But the ones who won't admit, we have to do background checks and everything because we handle sensitive data, and I tell people that. And and again, with the right, something in the right context is a lot different than, oh no problem whatsoever, and then you see it. Then that means that relationships are still based off trust, and if you're not telling the truth in an interview, there's no way I could hire you. That'll just shoot you down completely. Whereas if they would have maybe told me the context and been upfront and honest, like you said, and I made this mistake, I did that, whatever, but I want to tell you I've learned from it. I can give you some references that can discuss this with you. That would be an actual plus. You know what I mean? Because to me, the failure part is one thing, but what did you learn from that? I mean, now you have some experiences that other people don't have in a particular area, and if you truly learn from it, you may be more valuable.
Absolutely. And like you say, life's tough. Everybody's had difficult circumstances at one point or another, so don't feel that you're the only one. So you learn from it and you move on. And I like the tip where if you have references, you can say, well, who can we talk to about that? That helps you, the employer.
That's right. Yeah. And as long as you get approval, we always ask for references. That's one of the things. And I know how to ask questions in a way that I feel like I get the real deal on people. And ultimately that's what we're looking for. You said honesty earlier, and ultimately that's what you're looking for in an employee.
Exactly. Ask questions at the end of the interview. It's a great opportunity to learn more about the company or just type the loose ends that you don't know. So yes, ask questions. Get the interviewer name and contact information. Okay. Ask if you will be notified of a hiring, or if your application is going to be followed up on. Okay. Not all employers let you know. Okay. They just go through too many. You go through too many applicants sometimes. So we have some companies around here that go literally through thousands of applications, and they're just not set up to follow up in each one. Okay, so do your due diligence. Ask if you will be notified. Send a thank you letter. Okay, you should have got the employer name and contact information, but also ask, can you follow up with them? Okay. Some employers, I don't know about yourself, but some employers do not like to be called. Okay, recruiters do not like to be called. You can send a thank you note, but you may not want to call unless you get permission. And be prepared to get ghosted. I mean, as far as the job seeker, you may never hear from them again. That is okay. Don't get disappointed. Just repeat the process over and over again. Okay. And the one thing that I stress job seekers to do is once you get done with that interview, oh man, that went great. Yeah, I'm gonna hear something in the next couple of weeks. Don't stop the search. Okay, go on, continue to apply, continue to do interviews, because you get 2 weeks down the road and you find out you weren't the selection, then you're 2 weeks behind.
Yep. I'll reiterate kind of just and kind of wrap up some things that I see that I really like. And I think for, our audience here, there's some things that, a person who doesn't ask questions about, the job and, they're not fully engaged, they're just basically along for the ride, is probably not the person I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who is, is engaged and they understand, they're digging, trying to find out more, they're interviewing you as well as you're interviewing them. And I think that's something that we as interviewers need to be, cognizant of, is the fact that, we're trying to sell a job because, again, I'll use my daughter, I'll brag on her a minute. She's not looking for a job. She's looking for the job that best fits what she's trying to accomplish to build her career path, to get some experience in a particular area. And, if it's not a fit from like what she thinks from an employer standpoint, she's not going there. And at the end of the day, we want to find people that are, superstars. I always say a superstar can do the work of 3 people. And so we filled our teams up with superstars, we dominate the market.
Absolutely. And it does me or our agency, the Career Center, any good if we send you a candidate that's not a good match. Okay.
That's right. Yep.
So if we feel that's not good to match, I do not just like to send resumes just for sending resumes. They got to have what it takes. So.
That's right. Well, cool. Well, that concludes our time for today, and we're so much thank everybody. And for you guys jumping on the call, from an IT perspective, of course, we know Hank will help you in any way, and you can follow up with information, and we'll get you connected with him. We'll also do free cybersecurity training for your staff at no cost. That's another big thing, especially with people working off from hand, off site, working wherever. We'll do free web training for your entire staff, as well as that's for anybody on the call. All I ask is that let me know something before the end of the month. I like to kind of have start and stop dates on things. So any questions, Christy?
Yes. Yes, we had a few questions come in. What signs are there that they're a bad apple?
I don't know, Hank. I'll let you jump into that. I'll tell you a couple things.
Well, yeah, not asking questions. Okay. Apathy. I mean, if you get to the end of the interview and they're not prepared for the interview, I mean that's seems like a sign to me. Being late for the interview, not dressed appropriately. I've even had employers walk the interviewee out to their car, just saying, hey, well, I'll walk you out, and while we're discussing and wrapping up, just to see, how they're driving, what they're driving. I don't know if that's appropriate, but I have employers do that. So there's, like I say, the interview starts from the time you schedule it, okay, and how they present themselves, not only to you, the interviewer, but how they present themselves to the rest of the staff that prepared them for the interview. So you go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, I would agree with those things too. Any level of deceit. One of the questions that I like to ask is, what would your supervisor say about you? At a particular role. And you can tell if they squirm in their chair. Again, Hank, you said earlier about 70% of communication is body language and
Correct.
tone, inflection. If their voice cracks or whatever, then you got a problem there, and you can dig around a little bit more in there. And not to say that that's a deciding factor, but
No, yeah,
if
yeah.
they're uncomfortable, you need to, again, it's about honesty, it's about sincerity, and if you can figure out what happened, it would, and if you did hire that person and you knew that, this is not a way that this guy's going to work. And again, that some of the behavioral profiling can give you indicators on how to communicate with that person. And I'll go to, like an interview that Nick Saban and Bill Belichick had, that it's out there it's pretty recent. I liked a lot of it. And what I thought was very interesting of it was, on a college team, if you don't perform as to how the coach, if you don't act right, you don't get to play. But on a pro team, you very much have to, basically the owner or whatever, they buy an athlete. Well, you got to figure out how to motivate that person and how to, work with them to get the most out of them. And I think in today's world, that's a good lesson as employers, that we have to listen and think about, one size doesn't fit all. We have to be, malleable to some point as to how we manage people. Flex time, giving people a day off for achieving, or letting them work from home a day if they're a superstar. There's a lot of things that we can learn that can make our employees really happy, and we all know that happy employees are much more productive.
Absolutely. And today's audience is much different. And yet, as an employer, you got to figure out who you're talking to. If you're talking to a veteran, they're talking a little bit different language in their skill set. If you're talking to a young person, yes, what's most important for them is flex time. I mean, it's a different world than it was 10 years ago. So.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, we got another question. How should you reject an employee or a hire?
How do you do that, Philip?
I usually say, again, trying to be, honest, but, of course, and again, these are things that you don't want to, you wouldn't want somebody super analyzing their rejection from me, because, I've spent 40 minutes with them. I usually just say that, I don't feel like you're a fit for our company in this position at this time. Um, it's a shame in a way that the world is in such a way that you can't probably be, if you really want it to be helpful to somebody, if they did an exit interview, and I've had people call me, that are really just trying to get better, and I'll broaden that and say, listen, in order for you to get where I need you to be for this type of position, I need you to go get this certification, or I need some experience in this area. I would recommend you. And I do that a lot, actually. I have young people or parents or clients that I know, and they have a particular child or, somebody they know, and they're like, would you just talk to them? And I do, and I'll tell them, basically how to position themselves to get what they want. But pretty much, I think that you need to tell them it's not a fit and it's not going to work out, would be my biggest thing. I think is fair. They've spent their time and effort in getting in front of you, so you need to do the right thing and let them know that it's not going to work out.
From the job seeker point, yes, that is correct, because I have many come in that say, I thought I did well in the interview, but I haven't heard anything. So it's nice that they would rather know, even if it's a rejection. Okay, you're interviewing a lot of people usually, and there's only one job, so somebody's quality. You can just say, we have somebody better qualified than you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I actually had that happen to me within. I called the guy personally just because he was he was a very, I mean, like as far as like if you looked at the way that he did everything in the interview, was perfect. I mean, it was really, but his skill set wasn't there, and that's what I told him, and I made recommendations on what he should do to enhance his skill set. But again, that was more of a, I'd kind of had a little bit of a more personal relationship, just really because of the way that he introduced himself and the way that he followed up.
Okay, well, that's all the questions we have today.
Good. Well, Hank, thank you so much. And if you guys want more information, how to get in touch with Hank, it's been on some of these slides. Just email events at Ask BIS, and I really encourage you guys to use the services to help you take advantage of tax programs as well as getting better applicants. And of course, I'm always available to give you my 2 cents worth and things that I've learned throughout the years. And like to just thank everybody for coming out, as well as Hank for you coming, and Christy for you and your team putting all this together for us.
Yes, thank you, Christy, for all the help that you've provided myself in preparing for this.
Well,
Yep.
thanks,
Well,
Philip.
everybody. Yeah. Everybody have a great afternoon, and we'll see you guys soon.